Hey, this is Tim Pierce. That solo was just for fun. We're going to talk about rhythm guitar. Click the link below if you want to check out the masterclass. So the 4 Santana records that I got to play rhythm guitar on were Shaman, All That I Am, Guitar Heaven, and Corazon. The one I got to play the most on was Guitar Heaven. It had all these great singers, and it was great covers of classic rock songs. Scott Stapp, Johnny Lang, Joe Cocker, Gavin Rossdale, Pat Monahan, Chris Daughtry, Rob Thomas, Scott Weiland, and Chris Cornell. A really great, cast of amazing singers. But the one that had the most airplay was probably the first one I played on, which was a duet between Santana and Chad Kroeger from Nickelback. It was called Why Don't You and I. So the reason I got to do 4 Santana records is because of primarily 2 producers. Producers, not producers. 2 producers. Lester Mendez, who I had done Shakira's record with, and then Matt Zerletic. I've done tons of records with Matt too. Lester, we just did Josh Groban a few weeks ago, a Josh Groban record. And Matt, I got to do Rob Thomas and Joe Cocker, all these other people. Anyway, the thing that you have to do when you're supporting another guitar player is play simple and play supportive. No matter what session you show up for, you hope that over time, before they actually release the record, before they mix it, that your parts are going to stick, that they're going to stay, that they're not going to go, nah, we don't need that. So I was lucky. I actually got a lot on this song, but I was supporting Carlos, so it's very, very supportive. The main thing you hear are power chords in the chorus. We use baritone guitars, we use regular guitars, 4 to 6 tracks, all panned hard left and right. You really hear those. You have to listen closely, and I had to listen on headphones to hear the other parts. I enter in the second verse with an acoustic guitar arpeggio that's panned, doubled, and then I come in with a clean guitar arpeggio that's electric, and that clean guitar returns in the last verse. And then there's one little place where I did some sliding up, where it announced a chorus, there was a break. And that sounds really cool because it almost sounds like a sample or something. It doesn't even sound like guitar. So those are the things I did. So before I start the acoustic part, let me name the chords. We have B flat to F to A flat to E flat. And anytime I'm doing acoustic and electric sometimes too, I always find a capo position that allows me to do the cowboy chords, the beach chords, the open chords. We know so well, and this was no exception, because then you get all the open strings and the natural thing that you're used to hearing. So that's what I did. Here's how it starts. First, it's the B flat arpeggio. Just doing the open strings and the B flat bass note. And I hit a piece of an F chord, so it's just the root, the fifth, and the root again. No third. Drop down to the A flat. And I use my thumb for this. You could use your index finger if you want. And it's kind of the same pattern as on the B flat. And now I get to play a fill. So I form the E flat chord right here, the open one, and I do, it's very John Frusciante, very Hendrix, very Steve Cropper, probably very Curtis Mayfield too. So I'm hammering from 3 to 5 on the D string and pulling off. And then I do it again. And that time, I just hit the E flat chord and let it rest. And on the record, of course, Carlos plays a lead part. So let's review. I'll do it a little slower. And one of the features of this, I leave a gap between some of the chords, and I do it by palm muting with my right hand, and this is on purpose. And what that does, it creates a space where the track pokes through, and it's a really great tool to use. Now let me do it in time. So now I move on to the B section, and you can kind of not hear it very well because the electric guitar comes in, the rhythm electric guitar, the arpeggio. But I do this. And that's kind of like the kind of part you would hear a piano player play. I use hybrid picking. And this is where the capo really comes in handy because it's that traditional folk passage. You can use a pick if you want, but it really is effective with the pick and the two fingers. So you see what you're doing, you're picking the low note. With these two fingers, you're picking the B string, the G string, and then you're using this internally. Then we walk up, basically B flat over D, and then E flat. And it resembles first position A minor, G over B, and C. And there's a stop. Halfway through the verse, I come in with the clean electric part. It's an arpeggio, but it's just two notes. It traces the chords. Here's the B flat. Here's the F. Here's the A flat. Here's the E flat. I'm just picking up the top two notes. And the trick with this is to connect them. You know, you find a finger position that works for you to keep every phrase connected. Or rather, every position shift, hand position shift, connected. And you can leave a little gap if you want and let the reverb take over. That's the nice thing about having some reverb, is that it kind of fills the space if you need to leave a little gap. Now this part comes on the B section, but they save it for the breakdown that's right before the outro. And I really like the way this sounds because you can kind of sit in one place over the chord changes. I'll show you. See, I like the fact that your hand sits in one place and you can just kind of move through there and everything rings together. So that's basically the piece of the C minor that's down here. And that's just the passing tone. And that matches the E flat. You see it right there. And there's a hard stop with the drum break, and then we launch into the chorus. So now we move on to the main part, the part you can really hear, which is the rhythm part in the chorus, which is the power chords. And it's a really cool part. I plugged into the Diesel channel 3 for this. B flat, F, E flat, and then an accent on the C, and I do an upstroke for that. And you can see, very important to mute in between these strokes. 2 downstrokes, flat, I'm just doing the root and the fifth, up to the E flat, and then it's down up with a, so you just lay your fingers across to get that upstroke. And then on the last round, you don't do the kick and the C. Now remember, with a baritone guitar, you can tune it to the key of the song. And in this case, I tuned it from B to B flat, and it was best case scenario because the low E, actually a low B flat. It's the tonic and the downbeat of the chorus of the song. So it's just the best case scenario for tuning an instrument to the track. So your downbeat is the lowest note you've got. And in a case like this, I use the volume pedal to silence in between each stroke, because there's always noise with distortion. Even can get really bad if you had a pedal. I'm just pulling back the pedal in between each stroke. Otherwise you get that, and that's okay, it's a natural thing, but I always try and mitigate that. They could do that on their DAW, but as a courtesy, just to keep everything sounding great all the time, I always hide noise with the volume pedal. Let's name these chords as if this guitar were in E. We've got E, B, A, and then F sharp. And I pick up the root on top on these, I make it a 3-note chord. Except for the F sharp. It's easy to grab. Now you can use any baritone, and in fact a single coil baritone in the bridge position can actually sound great because it has bite, and when you distort it, it can sometimes sound better than a humbucker just because of the bite of that single coil pickup.